Call the October 18th meeting of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners to order. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Johnson to lead the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
You stand with me, please. Place the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may standing for the prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight in prayer. We ask for your blessings to be with us in this, as we go through this world pandemic that is still on us and still killing our people, making us so sick. We ask for your blessings for us all. We ask for health and safety from all the evils of this world. We ask you to be with us as we undergo the county's business. And we ask for your blessing for all our military and our law enforcement officers across the country who still have problems going on. We just ask for your blessings for our family, for things that are unspoken. We just pray these things in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, are there any additions or deletions to the published agenda?
Have a budget amendment under the consent agenda, 441B, if you guys would consider removing that, please. It was in the amount of $5.
Okay. And you're pulling that off the consent agenda, okay?
Yes, sir.
Any other changes to the consent agenda or the regular agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the published agenda.
Johnson, second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any changes to the published agenda itself?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Is that consent agenda or regular agenda?
The consent, I already did the
Okay.
regular.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, everyone in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. At this time, we will discuss approval of an application for the Public School Building Capital Fund.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Manager?
Mr. Chairman, this is an application to draw down $1.2 million of our lottery funds. We have about $1.4 million on hand in Raleigh. The purpose is the Board of Education wants to use this money to purchase some land for a school. The closing is tomorrow, so obviously we need to get this done, and that's why we have it here early. We'll actually be transferring the funds over to them tonight. So we would ask your approval of this application.
Make a motion we approve the $1.2 million property acquisition.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if you would, just as a matter of amendment, add to that the budget amendment also would be part of that motion. Or you can do it separately either way.
You're
I'll amend my
approved.
motion by adding the budget amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion, an amended motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. At this time, we will have a public comment period. This period will last for 30 minutes total, and each person desiring to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes. A speaker may not speak more than once and during the same public comment period. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. There will be no vulgar or cursing and swearing. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. And please state your name and address when you come to the podium.
Jerry Rivas, 364 Twin Ponds Road. I think perhaps you ought to have a copy of Robert's Rules of Order out in the lobby. Require everybody to read it. Several things are on my mind. When I spoke to you several weeks ago, a couple of days after my wife took her own life, I talked to you about passing a law in this state where a doctor who gets kicked out of one state for gross negligence and malpractice can't come to North Carolina and get a license. And I have been in contact with Jim Bergen's office, Tom Tillis' office, and Richard Burr's office, and just basically been blown off. Jim Bergen never bothered to contact me at all, so he's just proof that he's just another typical politician, doesn't give a darn about the citizens of Harnett County or North Carolina, just got elected to go to Raleigh and get rich, probably has his eyes on Washington like those other two morons that we have for senators. I noticed there's no movement in the sheriff's department on body cameras, and I think what this county really needs, we need to get rid of a sheriff who is looking back to the 1970s and get somebody progressive who is looking forward to the 2020s and the 2030s, join the other 67% of law enforcement agencies in this country that wear body cameras. It's an extra level of accountability for everybody concerned, deputies and alleged perpetrators. And lastly, I see a lot of people here who are against this asphalt plant. I don't have a dog in this hunt because I live several miles away from here, but I will say that for 12 years I worked for Kroll Constructors in Fayetteville, an asphalt plant. I learned how to drive a truck 45 years ago working at a concrete plant, and I've worked at 3 different concrete companies. I will say they are extremely loud, they are noisy, they are filthy. The concrete plants are gross water polluters. You ought to see the crap that comes out of one of those drums when every day you dump a load of concrete, you have to go back to that plant and put 100, 150 gallons of water in that drum and rinse it out. And it's nasty. And now I don't know how many houses are close to that proposed site, but the trend nationwide has been to do road work at night. So congratulations to the people who live within a half a mile of that place, because they're not going to get any sleep. And for my 12 years of working at an asphalt plant, I now have silicosis, which is caused by rock dust in my lungs. And you got to keep them away from everybody. They need a 3-mile buffer zone around them where there's nothing but woods. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Rose Teniente, 179 Tilden Howington Drive in Lillington. So, last I checked, House Bill 324 was indeed vetoed. So I think it's time for you guys to uphold your responsibility to the citizens of Harnett County and actually implement racial equity and diversity training for all of your staff. Today I was sitting on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council meeting, and our area consultant informed us of how concerned the state is over our racial disparities that we're experiencing in juvenile justice involvement. And part of that is because of a lack of understanding from the people that are having contacts with these youth. So I think it's time that you stop sitting around and actually do something. The excuse before was that House Bill 324 might get approved. We all knew it wouldn't, but instead that was used as an excuse to delay, and I would say that the citizens of Harnett County can no longer wait. We cannot wait for this. We need justice to prevail right now. Additionally, it's now been 8 years. Recently, it was the 8-year anniversary of the death of Army veteran Christian Griggs, whose murder has not been prosecuted by the Harnett County Sheriff nor the Harnett County District Attorney, despite the murderer, Pat Chisenhall, being found guilty in a civil suit. And so I don't know how we cannot be a county that actually seeks justice, especially for our veterans. So I would urge you to think about that as you often praise veterans and talk about how valuable they are. Well, guess what? His life was valuable and his life mattered. You also just prayed to God about the pandemic, and you're accepting millions of taxpayer dollars in COVID relief and COVID mitigation, but you won't require masks in Harnett County facilities. I find that to be a little bit amusing, but more so sad, thinking about that. And lastly, I do support all of my fellow residents here as they work to make sure that our environment stays as clean and healthy as possible, especially considering the damage that climate change is doing. We need to take care of our environment. And it's a little bit disturbing what I've been reading about on how members of this commission has facilitated that moving forward. And so that is all I have to say for today. And stay healthy.
Thank you.
My name is Dolly Griggs. My address is 39 Queens Court in Anger. This is my son, Christian Griggs. October the 12th, 2013, our son, Christian Griggs, was gunned down on his white father-in-law front porch. Christian had gone to pick up his daughter as he had planned for months. Christian called his father, stating his father-in-law was using profanity, the F word, at him. His father told Christian, "I'm on the way." Upon my husband's arrival, 5 minutes later, 3 miles down the road, he found Christian lying face down on his father-in-law front porch, shot 6 times. Christian was a remarkable son, a North Carolina State student, a patriot, a combat veteran who served our country honorably and heroically in Iraq. He survived war to come home and be shot down on his father-in-law front porch for being a dad to his daughter. Christian was shot 6 times, once in the shoulder, once in the abdomen, and when he became incapacitated and he fell down, Pat Chisenhall stood over his black son-in-law, who was face down and shot 4 additional times in the back. He pulled the trigger 4 additional times in Christian's lower back. Pat Chisenhall fabricated a story. The DA, the Sheriff's Department, they bought it. DA Stewart and the Sheriff's Department chose to turn a blind eye to justice and allow a white pastor to murder and give false testimony to a false narrative. The Harnett County Sheriff's Department, instead of doing their job, they altered the scene to cover up for this white pastor, Pat Chisenhall. Harnett County corruption has become the norm. Pat Chisenhall should be in jail. Not pastoring in a church, being with his family, sleeping in his bed at night, he took a life and went home. The forensic experts who reviewed the case, private investigators, and 12 jurors in the civil trial came back unanimously. Decision all came to the same conclusion. It was not self-defense, and no way the shooting occurred as Pat Chisenhall said it did. This should not be Christian story, and this is not the end. So please hold the Harnett County Sheriff's Department and the Harnett County DA to a higher standard, that they look in and refer Christian Griggs' case out to the State Department and also to the FBI to be investigated for the corruption here in Harnett County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ilya Smirnov, 100 South Main Street, Lillington, North Carolina, 27546. I'm the owner of Cape Fear River Adventures, Lost Paddle Tavern, Lost Paddle Kayak Shop. I'm also a resident of Harnett County. I'm here to express my concerns about the construction of toxic asphalt and concrete plant next to the residential sector, next to our hospital, and on our source of drinking water. On one side, I see countless residential developments. I'm witnessing creation of community parks, hiking and biking trails, water recreation, festivals, and events. Everything that makes Harnett County a desirable place to live. I also have Harnett County Regional Water that provides drinking water to over 125,000 customers in 13 municipalities and 5 counties. In addition to that, Cape Fear River has become a major paddling destination in North Carolina. There have been over 30,000 people that in that river alone that came this year swimming, kayaking, and tubing coming as far as Wilmington and Charlotte on any given weekend. And now you have authorized the development of a toxic plant upstream from our drinking source. You have authorized the toxic plant to be located next door to the hospital in the middle of rapidly developing residential sector. Besides the fact that the particular parcel was zoned industrial, meaning that no public hearing would be required, what were other factors that you have considered? It was not the residents, it was not the hospital, it was not the property values, and definitely not the river. I've heard that the asphalt plant will create jobs, and they will pay taxes. Well, I've been in business in Harnett County for the last 10 years, and I've grown my operations from one-man show to employing over 50 people in the summertime. And I sure have paid and collected a lot of taxes for Harnett County. Neither one of you have come to me and said, hey, thank you for creating those jobs and thank you for paying taxes. Neither one of you come to me and said, what can we do to help you bring more tourism and business in Harnett County? Because I have the proven record. What are the values that you, the commissioners of Harnett County, represent? Well, according to your website, and I quote, responsibilities include overseeing the budget, zoning and planning issues, promoting growth, and improving the quality of life for citizens of Harnett County. End of quote. I see some hypocritical decisions are being made right in front of our eyes, but behind our backs, because none of the responsibilities you have sworn to represent have been a part of this decision. Mr. Weatherspoon openly lied to all of us just 2 weeks ago. Frankly, after talking to hundreds of people about the plan and gathering the petitions, he was the only person who did not object nor saw any issues with the plan. So what are the values that the commissioners of Harnett County truly represent? Another toxic plan is not what we, the people of the Harnett County, want or need. We, the people of Harnett County, want clean air, we want clean drinking water, we want river for recreation, and we certainly want to see our house values to go up. It is not too late to stop this development. We, the people of the county, demand you take actions today and stop the toxic plant from any further development in the residential sector next to our hospital and on our rivers. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm actually Woody Lee from 217 Woodview Court. Folks, I'm glad to see y'all tonight. I'm gonna tell y'all how we're gonna win this thing, because I'm gonna turn around and tell you, Mr. Weatherspoon, guess what? You're in trouble. I'm running against you come next election. I will beat you, and then, Mr. Price, sorry, former town manager of Andrew, you'll be out. Jeffries, you'll be out. Mr. Locklear, you'll be out. And guess what? For the pavement company, you're in bad shape. I will do everything by the law to make for sure that you find out this is the worst mistake you have ever made to come to Harnett County. And Mr. Weatherspoon, you made a mockery of the Andrewtown board, and now you want to come here and do the exact same thing. So with that being said, I look forward to being in your seat coming very soon. So thank you.
I love a challenge.
Good evening. My name is Chris Neiswanger. I live at 371 Rudolph Road in Dunn, North Carolina, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the community surrounding that location about the matter of the Chansey rezoning request, plan number 2103-002. We would just draw the board's attention to three particular salient.
Sir,
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the rezoning, is that correct?
Yes, the rezoning.
We're going to have a public hearing on that next.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll
So if
hold
you
off
can
till
wait
then.
till then,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Hello, my name is Craig Fennerty. I live at 1395 Gregory Circle in Lillington. Now, 11 days ago, Mr. Weatherspoon, we all met with you, and we brought this issue up of opposing the plant. And we said you should have been able to do something about it. I said that. And what did you say? What did you say?
Go ahead. You're not
going to answer my questions?
We're not having a dialogue.
I'll take silence as you don't want to answer. That's fine. You said there's nothing we can do, number one. And number two, when I asked you specifically, did you know about this? You said not until after the fact that the application was put in. But now we have an article that was in the Daily Record with just a few emails released that you were working on it back in May, correct? You were already working with Highland to find them a plant location. True? Nothing to say? You have had ample chance to release information to prove your position that you had nothing to do with it. But we have heard nothing from you. We have heard nothing disputing that you were involved a month before it came here. So we know that you were involved. You knew it was coming. And so here's my point that I tried to make last week, but you shut me down because you said there was nothing we could do. Who is the author of the zoning ordinances in this county? I kind of want to know that. Can anybody tell me that?
Right.
Chris? Who's the author of the zoning ordinances? I'll tell you who is, because I've read the ordinances.
Debate with you, sir. Go ahead.
The author of the zoning ordinances are you folks and the departments that you appoint. So who are your bosses? We are your bosses. So when you craft those zoning ordinances, or you look at them to make sure they're proper, and those zones, you're working for us, not developers who give you money from outside the county. So when you guys did find out ahead of time that that plant wanted to go to that location, and you said there's nothing we could do, yes, you could have. You were in full power and authority to make a change to that zoning ordinance for the industrial zone that would have put restrictions and not allowed it to come in. You offered zero resistance because you were ushering them in. Now you said, oh, there's some other place that I was trying to bring them into. I wasn't trying to bring them to that place. What other place? Release the emails, release all your documentation, and prove to us that you were working to keep that plant from that location. Because everything we've seen up to this point was that you opened the door for them and let them in and did nothing to stop them. That's it.
My name is Alan Longman. I'm from Bond Level. The reason why I'm here talking is because I hear all these people, all these different issues that they have against you, all the issues, not just the tar plant, everything you've done. Even some references to some corruption that may have campaign money might have been funneled. I don't know. I think there's so much garbage, and I think we have to sit down and think, why is Mr. Witherspoon still sitting at the vice chair? Why don't you let someone who knows what they're doing have your position? You led everyone into heck. I mean, you led this county into all sorts of problems and trouble. It's going to continue. Redistricting and all that's going to also be the same game. So why are you still here? And you talked about treating people decently. Ms. McCoy was treated terribly. Racist, very racist what you did to her. And the point is, you want it not to be personalized. What you did to her was personal and obscene. It also was obscene and slap in the face to everyone she represents. She should be sitting up there on top and sitting with you, but she's not. So I want to see a change in this curriculum of the people who are here, the paradigm that you represent. And you're both here listening to Mr. Witherspoon because he's vice chair. We could remember that. Get rid of him. Vote him out so we don't have any more problems. We have fresh people in there that actually care about the people in the community. And we don't have to have all these fighting and lawsuits, which are going to be coming up and coming. Thank you.
Elizabeth Longman, that's my wonderful husband, Mr. Longman, and I just want to piggyback 234 Hamilton Road, Bond Level. Just to piggyback off of what he said. The three of you have the power to censure this man for what he did to the citizens of Harnett County. You cannot continue to go ahead like you're in ignorance of how awful and terrible what just occurred. It did not just affect one or two people, it affected everybody in Harnett. That $39,000 you spent to go find your economic development person, nobody's coming here. Nobody's coming here. Not with that. Nobody's coming here. So that's more money you're wasting. Censure him. Take him off from that position. Because right now, Mr. Matthews continues to be absent. You put him at the helm. He is what the people will see as Harnett County, and he is not Harnett County. Censure him. Take him off from the seat. Don't move one more step with him continuing to do what he's doing. Stop it. He's a liar with no integrity. Proven in writing. Stop him.
Good evening. My name is Marina Elliott. I live at 52 Sawgrass Court, Bun Level, North Carolina. I stand here again representing Riverside Community Action Network. I was here last month, and since last month, we actually mailed a letter to all the commissioners. You should have received that letter. There's been an article in the paper about the standing water issue in Riverside community. It's a health hazard for us. I don't live there anymore, but my mom and all my family lives there. Wetland Solution is still working on an assessment. I just want that to stay in the front of your heads, in the front of your attention, that we, when that solution, that project or that report is done, that we need the assistance of the commissioners to help us fix the standing water issue in Harnett County, in the Riverside community, because you would not want that in your community. And I'm going to finish by saying that I said it before. I'm a proud Air Force 30-year colonel, and what is going on in the Riverside community is totally unacceptable, and we deserve better.
Anyone else? All right, we will close the public forum at this time.
I have something to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I'm stepping out of line, but I hear those people's cry. I'm Christian McCoy, and I'm putting it on record right now. I knew nothing about that asphalt plant until I read it in the paper. I will not sit here and be accused of something that I knew nothing about. So I don't care what you think about me, because what you did to me was terrible. And it was racist. But I want the people to know that I hear your cry. That's all I got to say. Thank
All right, moving to item 7 on the agenda, appointments. Commissioner Nickel.
Yes, sir. I make a motion that we appoint, we had an application for District 5 for, we actually have 4 vacancies on the Harnett County Commission for Women and Youth. I make a motion to appoint Katrina Latimer from District 5 for one of the vacant positions. And I will also add in my motion as well, since Commissioner Matthews is not present, and also the other commissioners apparently, I guess, have not had a chance to speak with the other 2 applicants in regards to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, that we table the decision until our first meeting in November, until Commissioner Matthews can come back and Ms. McCoy, Commissioner McCoy and Commissioner Johnson can get with these 2 other individuals.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we will have a public hearing on the proposed rezoning case, Plan 2103-002. Mr. Locklear, would you like to address this?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Vice Chairman, members of the board. We've got a couple of cases tonight, 2 rezonings and a text amendment, which were recently covered in your work session. Our first case tonight, the applicant or the owner of record is Thomas Chancey. The applicant is Jimmy Pierce. He is requesting to rezone 106 acres from RE40 to RE30 in the Aversboro Township, specifically on Hodges Chapel Road. The site is served by public water and private septic, and staff has evaluated the site and found that the following reasonings. The benefits of the rezoning do not outweigh any potential inconveniences or harm to the community, as the requested zoning district would allow for higher density developments. 2, the requested zoning is compatible with land use classification, agricultural and rural residential. These areas are typically outside of public sewer service areas or often residential lots that are greater than half an acre. And number 3, the requested zoning to RA30 will not maintain the public health, safety, and general welfare for the surrounding community. This community is predominantly rural and uses, and the density provided by the proposed zoning classification would not be appropriate for this area. Due to the parcel size, this application does not need to be considered for small-scale rezoning. The suggested statement of consistency, as stated in the evaluation, the requested rezoning to RA30 would not only have an impact on the surrounding community, but would also fail to enhance the public health, safety, and general welfare for the reasons stated in the evaluation. It is recommended that this rezoning request be denied. This case was heard on October 4th at the Harnett County Planning Board, where they voted 3-1 to recommend approval of the application based on compatibility with the county's land use plan. And some of the comments that were made is that the schools have capacity in the area. There were some poorly drained soils, limited the development area, and also a planning board who spoke in opposition was concerned that the soils report was credibly enough to justify rezoning in this rural area. Several citizens attended the meeting, and one spoke in opposition for the group. The concerns were the traffic and desired to preserve the original RA40 rural area. I'm available for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Johnson, with downsizing from RA40 to RA30, how many extra lots would he get out of that?
Just doing a rough estimate, and of course the applicant is here tonight and can maybe speak to that more specifically, but we were just kind of doing the math in our office to see, because we were anticipating that question. The lowest that they could get with an RA40 would be a 28,000 square foot lot, and if it were changed to RA30, it could move to a 20,000 square foot lot. We thought maybe, depending on how it was developed, and there's different ways to do that. So I'm a little shy from going on the number of lots, but we came up with a 44 lot difference is what we had. But the applicant, like I said, may have done some more specific numbers on that. And like I said, I always recommend that the board consider all the uses that are inside of a zoning classification, not just the one that we're talking about, which is obviously for residential subdivision development that we're talking about tonight, right now.
If he stays at RA40, how many lots would he have then?
I think it's 112.
112 lots.
Yeah.
So if he adds about 44 more,
be 156.
156 lots. So there'd be probably 2 cars per house. About
Yes,
300 more cars per day in and out.
Could be.
That rural road hasn't been upgraded in years.
No,
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
How many homes is on that particular road right now?
There's, right now, currently, there's 3. I'm one of those houses on that street. There's 3 currently sitting there that I know of. One that was just built behind me. That's Blake Denning. Then us, we're in the old Hodges house. And then there's Lucas McClam right next door to us. That is currently it. That is on that street. That is a rural farmland across the street that is currently being farmed. That, honestly, there's a big man-made or unman-made natural pond in the middle of that field. That is from years of rain. And every time it rains, there's about a big pond in the middle of it. I don't see how you're gonna fit 100.
Sir, can you hold that till the public forum, please, public comment, please?
It's a very rural area.
At this time, I'm opening the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak for or against?
My name is Chris Neiswanger. I live at 371 Rudolph Road, Dunn, North Carolina, and I'm representing a number of individuals in the area around this property in question, including the Gays. They're a pretty large property adjoining that. We would just draw the board's attention to three applicable points that are codified in law governing the rezoning request in the county and in the state. The first one is Ordinance 153.300, Section 4, which sets forth the Planning Board policy guidelines. And this ordinance specifically states that the following concerns must be in the consideration, and I quote, "The following guidelines shall be followed by the Planning Board concerning text change or zoning district change, and no proposed zoning district change will receive favorable recommendation unless the intent of the following statements are met." The ordinance, the Harnett County ordinance, goes on to enumerate 5 particular considerations. 4 of those are addressed in the planning staff's report. Of those 4, 3 fail that test. I'm not going to take time to read all 5 of those tonight. The second point that we would draw your attention to, the planning department staff review and recommendation is set forth in the same ordinance, 153.300, Section 3. And this request fails to meet 4 of those considerations set forth in 153.300.4. And the staff, for whatever reason, didn't appear to evaluate the fifth one that's specified by that ordinance. This was in turn presented to the Planning Board at the Planning Board meeting on October 4th, 2021. It appears that by voting to recommend approval of this zoning request to the County Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board effectively violated the legal requirements placed upon it by 153.300, Section 4. The reasons that were on record given by these board members in support of approval, as you just heard, consisted of the following, and I quote, 1, schools have capacity in this area. 2, poorly drained soils limit the development in the area. And 3, it could be a valuable asset to the tax base. Unfortunately, none of those addresses the requirements of the ordinance 153.300, Sections 3 and 4. After the Planning Board voted to recommend approval, the subsequent Planning Department staff review and preparation for this meeting tonight, as you heard, sustained the recommendation to deny based on these considerations that are codified in Harnett County Ordinance 153.300, Section 4. And finally, the Harnett County Board of Commissioners' legal authority for zoning property is conveyed by North Carolina General Statute 153A-300. That authority is delegated by the state. That statute establishes the same set of considerations, which is why they're codified in Harnett County Ordinance 153.300. North Carolina case law establishes that failure to abide by these considerations in this general statute may constitute arbitrary and capricious action on the part of the County Board of Commissioners. In support of that, I would refer you to a case in the North Carolina Court of Appeals 1997, Gregory versus Harnett County. Harnett County's been sued 3 times over zoning problems over the years. And this particular case was a ruling against the Harnett County Board of Commissioners at that time. And in writing their opinion, the court said, quote, "Any action of a local unit of government that disregards these fundamental," those 5 that we've mentioned, the 4 of them are in the report, "zoning concepts may be arbitrary and capricious." And they referenced a number of other cases there. I won't take your time listing all of those. So in conclusion, it's clear that a vote to approve the zoning request under consideration in direct opposition to the failure of that request to meet 3 out of 4 considerations would constitute a disregard for these fundamental zoning concepts, making such a vote an arbitrary and capricious action on the part of the Board of Commissioners, and thus opening them up to civil action and remedy. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name's Devon Miller. I live at 217 Rudolph Road, and I do speak for our community tonight as well. I do want to add a balance to this. We of the community want to see our community grow in the appropriate way. The community sees growth in an appropriate way as very viable for the county. But the group here also believed when the zoning was put in, it was put in for a reason. Our roads are very limited. They're narrow. They are in bad shape. They have been for years. And that much additional traffic would cause even more problems. We got a 4-way stop starting Wednesday this week at 301 because of the traffic problem there. This would just increase even more. Again, just to reiterate, 3 of the points were not met, so the county planning group seek to deny the rezoning, and the community would like to see it stay R40. We're not against stick-built houses. We just want to make sure that when a rezoning occurs, that it's a done deal. We don't want it to fall through, and then all of a sudden the next person comes through and it's wide open for manufactured homes instead of stick-built. So again, we would love to see it remain RA40. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Danny. Excuse me. I'm Danny Norris from Dunn, North Carolina. I'm here representing the developer. We had turned in a new layout showing 94 lots on this property. It's all based on soils, so it's not going to be a high density project. It can't be because it don't have the soils to support it. The intent at R40 was roughly 1 dwelling per acre. Well, not all the acreage perks. We're still only going, we're going to have actually less than 1 per acre based on the total of 106. So we're proposing 94 based on the soils work. It's not going to be a high density project. It's not going to be a mobile home project. The lots are going to be expensive. You can't afford to put mobile homes on expensive lots. So our total yield is not something outrageous. So it's not a real high density development. It will be smaller than R35, which is what's permitted now with county water. We're looking to be at R25 after the rezoning. So we would have about 6/10 of an acre lots at the smallest. And of course, there's going to be a lot of open space because it don't perk. That pond that was referenced will be in the middle of this open space. I mean, you can't put houses there. So therefore, that's why we're asking for rezoning, so we can get enough density to justify developing the property. It's not like we're greedy and trying to get more lots. We're just trying to get basically what the intent was when it was zoned, which was roughly 1 dwelling per acre. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Beasley. Live on Hodges Chapel Road, just down from the proposed development. I've been there for approximately almost 50 years. Used to be able to go out to the mailbox without worried about getting run over. Well, it's not that way anymore. We've got trucks come off 95, cutting through through Hodges Chapel Road over to 27 back, and people do the same thing. The traffic is really bad on this road for the road that we've got now. And the place where they want to develop this, I don't know, if it comes a big rain, you're looking at a place big enough to ski with a boat, big enough to put in that particular place, and it always stays wet. And also, up on the road, just on the side of the road on Hodges Chapel Road around the second curve there, if it comes a big rain, this half of this road is also underwater. So with putting, I don't know, how many houses did he say wanted to put, or lots, 112 or 150? I don't remember which one.
106. Or
106.
And then his revised plan was 94.
Okay, add approximately 2 to 250 more vehicles every day. Not to mention, I'm kind of wondering, when it comes to big rain, what's going to all the sewage in the sewage that people have out there, because when it rains, everything's nearby underwater out there. Hardly any place is not water standing. Much less enough room to put 100 and something houses. And, you know, the traffic and where it's at would constitute a danger because of the curves. Not to mention, I don't see how people wouldn't eventually have problems with the septic tanks the way I've seen that fill up and look like something big enough to ski on. Anyway, we'd like for your consideration to deny this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
How you doing? I'm Joe Creech. I live at 815 Miller Road, right off Hodges Chapel Road. My wife and I, we both just recently retired from the Air Force, 48 years of total service. And out of all the places in the world we could go to retire, we retired just south of Benson in Harnett County. When we found our house and we absolutely fell in love with it, it didn't take us 3 hours to notice all the 18-wheelers going up and down Hodges Chapel Road. Come to find out, they're using it as a thoroughfare between 95 and 27. I mean, I'm sure you've seen Hodges Chapel Road. If you haven't, you need to go drive it because it's very thin and it's in very poor condition. So not only do we not have any no through truck signs stopping that traffic, now we're going to add another 200, 250, 300 cars to it. That's going to be a danger to the public. If 104 houses or if 94 houses are what's to be built out there, then isn't there some kind of condition to that? Because if you rezone that to RA30 and something falls apart, as you can see, it's already changing. Or if they just change their mind, now we've got modular homes, multi-family homes, and we're looking at a lot more traffic and a lot more people. That's not what my wife and I came to Harnett County to settle in. We bought our forever home out there because we wanted to be rural and we wanted to be in the country. We didn't want Benson or Harnett County to start spreading in on us at that kind of rate. Again, mainly the traffic. Something needs to be done about that road, whether it's a no through truck sign from 95 to 27, vice versa, or some sort of better DOT maintenance done to that road. Something needs to happen. The infrastructure needs to be there before the houses get put up, if that's what happens. And if the houses get put up, it should be under R40 pretense, not R30. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name's Carolyn Strickland. I live at 75 Hodges Chapel Road. I wasn't really prepared to speak, but I do want to put my 2 cents in. We're definitely opposed to the rezoning. I have several reasons, one being the traffic on the road. 90 houses, 2 cars apiece, that's 180 cars a day going back and forth. As I think Mr. Beasley said, it's to the point now I have to watch myself going across the road to get the mail. It's not safe for our children, our grandchildren, and there's just too much activity. I'm afraid that changing this, if their development plan would fall through, and we have more smaller homes, more starter homes, manufactured or mobile homes, that's going to decrease the property value of the larger homes that are on the street. I just don't think the proposed development matches our current development. We're on a country road with that country feel, large houses with large lots. Um, and I just don't think it will be beneficial for many reasons to approve it. In addition to this, there we've got the school system to worry about. We've got the road maintenance to worry about. I have the washing out in my yard as well with dirt over the pavement, and it takes the act of Congress to get DOT out there to fix it already. So, and then with this many houses, we're going to put additional pressure on our school system, our road, fire and rescue, and those are already stressed enough, I feel like. Um, so that's really all I have to say. I'm just worried about the safety issues, especially if this development fell through and it was more mobile homes, starter homes. I'm worried about the crime issues, noise, congestion, and the traffic. And I ask that you deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Joanne Cresswell. I've been living on Hodges Chapel Road 1670 for 30 years. I'm a military veteran, disabled veteran. And when I found my home, I was just like the young man from the Air Force. I found my forever home right here in Harnett County. I've been living there and being retired. I watched the traffic on that road, and you've heard all these things before already tonight. The traffic on that road is incredible 24/7. I mean, I can hear the trucks and everything going by in my window. I keep my cats and my animals behind my fences because even though it's a country, they're not safe to be out there. I've watched Mr. Beasley's grandchildren go across the road and I almost have a heart attack because of the way the traffic is on the road. I called DOT many years ago because my front yard, with all the water that you're talking about, my front yard has slowly and steeply declined. Thank goodness my brother's a mason, so he put a retaining wall up for me. DOT came out and dug it out for me, but again, it needs digging again because that flow of water is still going down there. If you look at the road where the proposed zoning is done, that's a curvy, and I call it a Sasquatchy area because there's a swamp right there that whenever it rains, you'll be glad to get across that and get back home to where you do. Not only are we having 301, a four-way stop put there, we're also having at the end of 27 on the other end, it is a thoroughway. And the cars that go down there, not only the cars and the trucks, it's like a speedway. And whenever we go out to do something simple like mow or grass, we have to watch the traffic so that the traffic doesn't hit us while we're out there. And I'm very proud to be in that community. I have a lot of elderly retired neighbors that have taken really good care of me. And now I'm one of those elderly retired neighbors. And we take care of each other out there. As a home, it is a very good feel for your forever home. And I just hope that you will decide to decline this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I ain't come over here to make a speech. I just happened to live on Hodges Chapel Road for 76 years.
Could you state your name,
Seven,
please?
John Allen. And I'm at the intersection of 301 and Hodges Chapel Road, and it used to be rural out that way, but now, recently I've learned there's going to be a four-way stop sign. You fellows know about DOT's putting a four-way stop sign at the intersection of 301 and Hodges Chapel Road due to traffic volume, I guess. So I'm just standing here saying we got enough traffic without another housing project going on. I've got nothing against a man building a house and selling it and making money. I just, like these other people, too much traffic now, and we're going to add to it. These trucks going from 95 to 27, going to have to stop at a stop sign. I don't know how I'm going to get out of my driveway. Mule Day, that's going to be a nightmare. So I'm not making a speech. I'm just here to address the traffic problem. It's going to be bad. It's bad now. It's going to get worse. So my cousin owns land adjoining this land we're discussing tonight, the 100 acres. And I don't think she's even aware of what's going on next door to her. So she owns land joining this land, and she lives in Wallace. Anything else I need to say is I hate to see the rural turning into non-rural. So if I got to live with it, my house was built in 1914, and it's seen a lot of changes. It's been through a lot of hurricanes, and I'm just expressing my opinion here that we got enough traffic now. They're building the four-way stop sign as we speak, and we're gonna add more traffic to what we already have. So I just picked this paper up. There's 3 for it, 1 against it. The first man that talked, he sounded like a lawyer. He knew all 153-000 something. I don't know about all that stuff, but I'm in favor of what he said. I'm not a lawyer. I do have an MBA, and I like to spend my latter years. I'm 76, and I don't want to sit there and watch trucks and traffic go by my house every day. But I will if I have to. So that's about all I got to say. I'm addressing the traffic problem. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse with the housing developed there or not. It's so bad now. 4-way stop sign in front of my house. Trains. Well, we ain't talking about trains, but I'm against it. And my cousin, if she knew about this, I don't know, she might like it, increase her property value. She farmed her land out, and she lives in Wallace, but I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Marissa Mezzacapa. I live at 1785 Hodges Chapel Road. We moved from Wake County in Fuquay Marina because of the development. We purchased our house on Hodges Chapel Road with over 5 acres looking for that idyllic country lifestyle, and we found it here in Harnett County. Over the past year, I have had to tell my daughter she could no longer mow the front yard because the traffic was so bad. There is no shoulder on the road. It's a very narrow road. When you go down the hill coming from 27 and go across the creek, the side of the road is eroding. And after every big storm, somebody from DOT has to come out and put sand on the road. The road is not in shape for the residents that are there now, but we deal with it because we love Hodges Chapel Road. That road can't handle another 94 homes, another 180 plus cars. The school buses are over capacity. My daughter goes to Triton, and she has told me there are days where there are children standing on the bus because the school buses are over capacity. What will 94 homes do to that? Our kids don't need this, and we don't need it. We don't need the traffic. I hope these people can find homes, but we would like them to do it somewhere else.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no one, yes, ma'am.
I'm Wanda K. McLam. I live at 1506 Hodges Chapel Road. I didn't want to get up here because I'd cry. I've lived on Hodges Chapel Road, Miller Road, all my life, except for about 10 years. Most of us out there have lived there, and those that have come in have got it because it's country. They like the area and the people. Please don't allow even a subdivision of any kind to go down there, or a mighty big one with large lots. Go down that road. The road can't handle it. We want the country feel. We'll lose that country feel. Please don't vote for it. I'm sorry.
Anyone else?
I think that's everybody who lives on the road. It's a consensus.
I've already said my piece.
Seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now's the time, commissioners, if you have any questions of the first gentleman that spoke, or the developer, or comments amongst ourselves, this is our time.
Well, y'all definitely had some great points. Mr. Norris, I know that you do build some quality homes. I've known you to do that for a long time, but I would like to say that when you guys purchased this property for the development, you kind of knew what you were getting into, as far as, you know, doing due diligence with the lots. I would say in regards to probably the traffic and a lot of other environmental concerns, I'd like to make a motion. According to the proposed zoning change located at Hodges Chapel Road and Hillman Road, as stated in the evaluation, the requested rezoning to RA30 would have an impact on the surrounding community and fail to enhance the public health, safety, and general welfare due to the uses and residential development densities that could occur. Therefore, I make a motion that the Harnett County Commissioners deny this rezoning request.
Okay, please wait till we're finished. We have a motion to deny. Do I hear a second?
Johnson seconds.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of denying this request for rezoning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. Okay. Mr. Locklear, would you like to address 2109-0002?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you want to give an opportunity for the folks if they want to leave?
Yeah, if anyone would like to leave, feel free to leave at this time. We'll pause.
I'll vote for you.
You're not in my district. That's the problem. Mark, it's not your district.
It is.
Is it?
I wanted to make that motion.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Mark.
Undo.
I was trying to make a statement. It's like, you know what? Like, if you're going to be building, you need to do better due diligence instead of coming after the fact, you know, in order to try and recoup it. Maine does some great work, but it is what it is.
All right. Let's go ahead. I think we're.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our second case tonight is also a rezoning request. This property is located in the Barbecue Township. The owner of record as well as the applicant.
Excuse me. Please, you're out of order. Please be quiet so we can hear what's being said.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our second case tonight is a rezoning request from RE20R to commercial. The owner and as well as the applicant on record is Kenneth Szynski. The property is 1.15 acres located on Barbecue Church Road in the Barbecue Township. This site is served by public water as well as public sewer. And staff has evaluated the site and found the following: that the impact to the surrounding community is reasonable as there are several non-residential uses in this area. The requested zoning is compatible with the existing land use classification of a rural center development node. Rural center development nodes are small-scale commercial centers. These areas can be suburban in nature and contain smaller non-residential uses. The requested zoning would enhance or maintain the public health, safety, and general welfare due to the potential site improvements that could take place. And then last, due to the same zoning across the street, as well as land use compatibility, the application does not need to be considered for small-scale rezoning. Staff has come up with the following suggested statement of consistency: that as stated in the evaluation, the requested rezoning to commercial would not have an unreasonable impact on the surrounding community based on the non-residential growth patterns of this area, as well as the compliance with the county's land use plan. Therefore, it is recommended that this rezoning request be approved. This case was heard at the October 4th Planning Board, and it was voted unanimously 4-0 to approve. There's one neighboring resident that spoke and asked about how it would affect this property, but did not object. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Locklear? At this time, I will open the public hearing, and anyone that would like to speak for or against this rezoning, please come forward.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm here. My name is Sasha Rathbone. I live at 833C Cardinal Creek. I'm here to speak on behalf of Kenneth Szynski. He's not here this evening because he had to be away for work. He wanted the rezoning of this property so that he could start a small business there. The evaluation stated that it was appropriate for rezoning, and the board approved. So I'd just like to state he's a veteran and he just wants to improve Harnett County and bring more growth to that area that has several small businesses in it already. Any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any questions, comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, in regards to the proposed zoning change of case plan 2019-0002, the location on Barbecue Church Road, I'd like to make a motion. The requested rezoning to commercial would not have an unreasonable impact on the surrounding community based on compatibility to the Kansas County Use Plan, as well as to the existing non-residential uses in this area. Therefore, I make a motion that we approve this rezoning request.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Johnson seconds.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving this rezoning request, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Our last case tonight is a text amendment request for the applicant. In this case is Harnett County Development Services, our office. We are looking to do a new addition and a revision to the UDO, Unified Development Ordinance for the county, specifically Articles 9 and 14, Section 13, and Section 6. We are asking that we specifically amend the section of the ordinance that talks specifically that deals with our military corridor overlay portion of the county, which is a 5-mile district just located outside that surrounds the Fort Bragg, where the property touches the county. There's a 5-mile buffer that we have since turned into our military corridor overlay area. And basically, it's not really any regulations, so to speak, but it is recommendations and some regulations in the fact that it's more of a notification whenever property is developed inside of that area. We are required by state law to let Fort Bragg know that we are that there is in fact a use or a change of use taking place in there, and they are given an opportunity to respond to that through the Regional Land Use Advisory, which is called RULAC, and that goes to Fort Bragg. And then if there's any issues, say for example with a cell tower is a good example, if that's a flight pattern that Fort Bragg may use, then they want to let us know so you can make a sound decision if when it comes to in front of a board. So basically that's what it is. As I mentioned in the work session, Fort Bragg worked with, they just recently done their joint land use, what they call the JLUS. And out of that plan came a group of recommendations. And one of those recommendations is that counties put these types of things in place. And luckily for Harnett County, we've always been good neighbors with Fort Bragg, and we want to continue to do that. And we already had a military corridor overlay in place, but the JLUS and their recommendations gave a little bit better specifics. And so we saw it as an opportunity to strengthen the language that we already had in our UDO, or we already have in our UDO. And so that is what we are looking to do tonight with this revision, this text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance for the county. It is a little wordy and long, and I went through some of the specifics with you in the work session. I'll be more than happy to go over any of that you may have questions about. If not, I think everybody's had an opportunity to look at it, and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions you may have. I did want to mention that the suggested statement of consistency should read that the Development Services staff recommends approval of this text amendment as it is compatible with the Harnett County regulatory documents, North Carolina general statutes, and the 2020 Fort Bragg Joint Land Use Study. Therefore, it is recommended that this text amendment request be approved. And I'm available for any questions as I mentioned.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Locklear? All right, at this time I will open a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this change in the UDO, please come forward. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing and ask what's the pleasure of the board.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve text amendment case PLAN 2103-0002 of the amend the Harnett County UDO when it pertains to the military corridor overlay.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. Okay. This time we will hear from General Services, Harnett Area Regional Transit System on a proposed 5311 Community Transportation Program.
Good evening, Mr. Weatherspoon. This is our...
Excuse me a second. Let these people leave.
Okay. This is our normal yearly operating grant that we receive from NCDOT. It's 5311. It's our community transportation program. It funds administrative and capital expenses for us, vehicles, a couple of salaries, supplies, and things like that. This year we requested $730,230 with a local match at $91,593. We did request a special project for this grant. It is our vehicle monitoring systems. They are outdated, and half the time the cameras don't work, and that project is around $65,000. In order to apply and receive 5311, 5307, and rural operating assistance funding, which are all grants from the FTA or the state, we have to hold a public hearing and allow public comment on community transportation and what they would like to see in the overall this current grant or next year's grant.
Okay. Any question from the commissioners? Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to comment, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we what exactly is proposed, that you guys can go ahead and accept this funding? Yeah.
It's simply just the grant application itself. All the value in there, everything is determined based upon FTA's overall approval. This is just allowing us to enter into the agreement to apply.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the application for 5307, 5311 for the Hearts.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
That's it.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk, and that motion was made by Commissioner Nichol, second by Commissioner McCoy. All right. Moving to item 12. Mr. Tyson, you're up. And we don't have to have a public hearing either, so just, we don't have to have a public hearing for this, so just go ahead.
Well, not tonight.
Not tonight.
In a couple of weeks.
Brooks will be here then.
We're here this evening to present to you the schedule of values. It's a statutory piece of the reappraisal process, and we have certain things that we have to do in order to get this schedule of values adopted. And this will be the standards, the rules we'll use as the county and the tax department will use in years to come, starting January the 22nd, going until our next reappraisal. I've got Ryan Vinson of Vinson Valuations with us tonight. His team has been working us through this whole process, and some of you were not on this board in 2019 when we started this project. So I've asked Ryan to tell you just a couple of background pieces, and then his presentation will show you what we need to do in order to move forward and adopt these schedule of values.
All right, thank you, members of the board. My name is Ryan Vincent with Vincent Valuations. So back in 2019, the county sent an RFP out, and we were chosen as the vendor to conduct the property tax reappraisal. That's all we do. We do property tax reappraisals all throughout the state of North Carolina. I actually need to do this exact same presentation tomorrow night for Watauga County for their 2022 reappraisal. So we started this process, and I'll be very brief. Started this process back in 2019 by doing what we call a full measure list, which is where we visited each piece of property in the county. So someone from my staff knocked on every door within the county, assuming there was no gates, fences, dogs, anything that inhibited us from safely getting to the property. So that was the first step in the reappraisal, was making sure our information was correct. In some cases, we picked stuff up. In some cases, we removed stuff that was no longer on the property. The next phase is where we come into the office and we start reviewing all this data. So we enter all this data into our systems and we start analyzing sales. What are people paying? I heard folks say earlier today they want their property values to go up. And sometimes people want them to go up, sometimes people want them to go down. So we analyze sales. We go back about 2 years, try to figure out what the trends are in the market. What are people paying in certain areas for certain types of properties? From there, we build valuation models and a schedule of values, which we're presenting tonight, that help us conduct our reappraisal, which is a mass appraisal. So we are charged with valuing a little under 70,000 properties as of one particular day. A fee appraiser, if you purchase a house or do a refinance, has to do one appraisal on an individual house as of a certain day. So we use a little bit different methodology, but ultimately we want to try to end up at generally the same result. So that's a little bit of background about what the reappraisal is. So a reappraisal It affects residential, commercial, industrial, and vacant land, all types of property within the county. So we're looking at all of them. State law tells us that we must do this at least once every 4 years. Department of Revenue put out recommendations a few years ago that advise counties that it's best to do a 4-year cycle, possibly shorter. There's some counties that are analyzing a shorter cycle to limit, say, shocks in the market, large increases and large decreases in market swings. As we know, lately property values have changed dramatically in certain areas and not so dramatically in other areas. So part of the reappraisal is to equalize this tax burden across property owners. This clicker's not working. Equalize property tax burden across the properties and the property owners based on what their current market value is. So one thing that's important to remember is that we at the tax office do not create market value. Market value is created between a willing buyer and a willing seller in the marketplace. We simply analyze the market and try to create models and mimic the market the best as possible. So this reappraisal, as Mr. Tyson touched on earlier, takes effect January 1st, 2022. The question that we always get is, when is this going to affect my taxes? Well, the new tax bills will go out in the summer of 2022, and those will be mailed to all property owners in Harnett County. So why are we here tonight? So General Statute 105-317 tells us that we must present our schedule of values to the Board of Commissioners. The schedule of values is right there. We're presenting it. We're letting the public know that the schedule of values is available for viewing within the tax office. We are asking that, I believe at the next meeting, that the commissioners hold a public hearing on the schedule. This is all part of the statute, part of the process. After today, I have kind of coined a phrase that the schedule of values is lying in state until it's accepted. So we're presenting that tonight. So as we go forward here, just a quick calendar. So on November 1st, we're going to ask the board to schedule a public hearing on this schedule of values. And then on November 15th, we'll ask the board to accept the schedule of values. There is an appeal process if anybody should choose to object or appeal this schedule of values. Basically, it's a fast track to the state property tax commission. January, we will start reappraisal presentations. So we actually talked a little bit about that within the office today. We want to reach out to as many public community groups as frankly willing to listen to us. Maybe realtors associations, neighborhood groups, civic organizations, anybody like that. Get in front of them, educate them about the process, why we do what we do. So we want to start those in January. We plan to mail notices sometime in the end of February or beginning of March. So when we mail notices, that will be for all the property owners within the county. That will have their new value on it, and it'll also have information on there should they choose to appeal it. So property tax is the only tax that you can actually appeal. There's a process. So I'll walk you through the process real quick. Somebody would file an appeal within our office. We would work it based on the evidence that they submit. 3 outcomes from that could be an increase in value from their current value, a decrease from their notice value, or a no change from their notice value. Should they disagree with that, then it would go to the county's Board of Equalization and Review, in which case the county would state their case, the property owner would state their case, and the board would make a decision. Should they not be content with that decision, they can go to the State Property Tax Commission. If they're not content with that decision, they can go to the State Court of Appeals. This is all part of that education we want to get out in our public presentations in January, just so people know the process. We have seen large market swings, as you may know, and we want the public to know that. Part of our public presentation will show changes in value from previous reappraisals to recent sales that have happened. Our values are based on market value, buyers and sellers. And that's pretty much all I got. I don't know if Mr. Tyson had anything, and I'm available for any questions that any of the board members may have.
Yeah, what we will be asking for tonight is that you accept our version of the schedule of values, and we need to advertise in the paper. This will come from the board. We have that already ready to go. And then once we do that, we will need to schedule. I'll have the schedule of values available in the tax office for anyone who needs to take a look at those kinds of things. We'll have that available for them. But November the 1st, a public hearing, because we have to have a public hearing on this issue at least 7 days before you look at adopting the schedule of values. So that's where we are at this point in time. We'll take care of all the details. We just wanted to make sure that we got this process started so that we can meet our deadlines. And if you have any questions for either one of us, we'll be glad to answer.
Anyone have any questions? I think your schedule's pretty clear.
Yeah, got a big job too.
Yeah.
Got a big job ahead of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Glad I don't have to hear these appeals. All right, moving right along. Mr. Wood, the county manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, it's been a long meeting. I'm not going to go over any of these. You have all of these in your packet, unless anyone has any questions.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Wood?
I did want to reiterate one thing I think we said at the outset of the meeting. $1.2 million that you approved, the budget amendment and the drawdown from the lottery commission for the schools. They will close on that property tomorrow. So we, while you were meeting, we've already sent that money over to them electronically. So we're all set to go on that. Just wanted you to be aware of that. One thing I would like to mention, Mr. Chairman, under new business, Commissioner Johnson has asked to make some comments on possible renaming of Fort Bragg. So if you would allow that.
Sure.
Fort Bragg is going to be renamed, and I would like to get a letter of recommendation from the board to rename it Fort Bill Lee. The reason I'm asking that is William C. Lee was in World War I. He's a Harnett County native. He was wounded in action in World War I in trench warfare, came back out, mayor of a small German town for a while he was in the Army. While he was there in the 30s, he observed the German military parachute troops and wondered why the United States did not have a airborne. He went on to work on that. He talked it up as much as he could around everybody he could get around. Finally, he got an interview with the President of the United States where he got carte blanche to form an airborne. General Lee is considered by everybody the father of the American Airborne Army. There's been books written about him. I have 3 right here. And he is world famous. He had a series of heart attacks in England while he was preparing the airborne doctrine for D-Day, Operation Overlord. And he had to come back to the United States, lived a few years, passed away because of a series of heart attacks from, I think, overworking to prepare the airborne army. If it wasn't for that, he would be a household name, because he led the charge all the way up until his heart attack. But because he's a Dunn boy, he asked for the airborne to be moved to Fayetteville, Fort Bragg. But that's why Fort Bragg is as big as it is today. So this time I'd like to ask for the letter of recommendation be approved for General Lee to be called. And by the way, General William C. Lee is not kin to anybody in the Civil War. That general is no kin at all. So I'd like to ask for a letter of recommendation to go to the renaming committee in Fayetteville, name it Fort Bill Lee.
Is that a motion?
If it needs to be a motion, yes, I'd like to make that motion. Which for a letter of recommendation?
I think we need a
Okay,
motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we have the board write a letter of recommendation to the renaming committee to rename Fort Bragg, because it will be renamed Fort Bill Lee.
Here, a second. I'll second the motion. Any comments or discussion?
I have some comments. Now, I understand that Fort Bragg is going to be getting renamed. That's big and very contended right now. I have personal reservations with renaming it anything other than Fort Bragg for a couple of reasons. And there's also another general who, I believe it was Edward C. Bragg, another very highly decorated, had nothing to do with the Civil War as well. I mean, as soon as you were first saying General Lee, I was like, wait, like, is that kinfolk? So I mean, I can kind of see how it'll be like people automatically think, oh, General Lee and Fort, you know, and plus we already have a Fort Lee. But when people travel all across the world, I mean, you could say, hey, I'm from North Carolina, or you know, I'm from Raleigh, or this, that, and the other. But Fort Bragg is known all across the world, from every country that I've been to. Military leaders across the world, not even American military leaders, they realize Fort Bragg by Fort Bragg's name. The only reason I will not vote in favor of that is because I think we need to hold the name of Fort Bragg for one of many reasons. Is, I mean, we have a Fort Bragg credit union. We have so many other businesses around the area that have Fort Bragg associated with their name. And I really think that it would be detrimental to that, as well as personally, you know, a pride thing about Fort Bragg. I don't condone anything that's brought up about the gentleman that it's named after's past. I understand that we're in like a cancel culture right now. However, I think Fort Bragg is more than just the name of that general that it was named after to begin with, and it's become a whole lot more since then. And I personally would like to preserve the name Fort Bragg solely for that reason. That, I mean, it is a monumental name, and it puts this area on the map, and every single person who associates with that, I would say, takes pride in it. So, and I mean, I totally respect the motion for that, but that's not something that I would do on that.
Well, Commissioner Nickel, you're certainly entitled to your vote.
You want to make a motion?
At
our work session?
I'd like to make a motion that we table this for further discussion, because I was actually going to come to the board in order to ask for a resolution letter to be made in regards to keeping it as Fort Bragg, but using the other general.
I hadn't thought about the fact that we already have a Fort Lee, Virginia. I don't know. I don't know what impact that would have. But anyway, yes, ma'am, Commissioner McCoy.
I want to ask the question, has it been decided that they're going to change the name?
Yes, ma'am.
Fort Bragg, that's already been decided.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we're doing now is submitting a name that we think should be
Yes, ma'am.
the name of the base.
Yes, ma'am.
Our recommendation will be one of hundreds, probably.
Well, I'm not opposed to it, but I think we need to restudy that a little bit.
We have a motion to table.
So I make a motion that we table it until we can, all of us can discuss it and make that decision.
Okay. Commissioner Nickel made a motion to table. Do you second that?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
We have two motions in 2 seconds.
The motion to table takes precedence.
Okay.
That overrides the original motion. Okay, so we have a motion to table. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? 3-1, Madam Clerk. And will you put this on our agenda for the next work session?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Do we have need for a closed session?
Yes, we do.
Yes, sir. Harnett County Board of Commissioners, October 18th, 2021, closed session motion I move that the board go into closed session for the following reasons: to discuss certain personnel matters. Motion is made pursuant to NC General Statute 143-318.11A5.
Second.
Motion and second that we go into closed session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're now in closed session. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion with adjourn.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk.